The twin suns of Vesk hung low in the yellow sky as the wind pushed dust across the rocky plain. It was a lonely place, far from trade routes and city lights. In the middle of this forgotten land stood a scrapyard filled with broken machines, rusted starship parts and piles of metal that hadn't moved in years. Tom lived there alone. He was a quiet man with a rough beard and deep lines on his face. He didn't talk much, not even to the supply drones that came once a month. Most days he worked with his hands, fixing old engines or tearing apart wrecked ships. He liked the silence. But on that day, something strange happened. A loud boom shook the air. Tom looked up from his workbench and saw smoke in the distance. Something had crashed near the edge of his scrapyard. He picked up his scanner, grabbed a small blaster from the wall, and walked toward the sound. When he reached the spot, he saw a large metal crate half buried in the ground. Steam hissed from its sides. The crate had no markings, no name, no shipping ID, nothing. That was strange. Most cargo had trackers. This one didn't. Tom approached slowly, his boots crunching on the gravel. He scanned the crate. The readings showed something alive inside. Small, weak, and afraid. He tapped a button on the side. The crate hissed and unlocked. The door slid open. Inside was a girl. She wasn't human. Her skin was a soft gray blue, like ash touched by moonlight. Her arms were thin and her knees were pulled to her chest. She wore a loose, torn garment that looked more like a hospital wrap than clothing. Her hair was white and messy, falling over her eyes. Cold vapor spilled out from around her. She looked up at Tom with wide, glassy eyes. Her lips trembled. She tried to speak, but only let out a broken whisper. "Please!" Tom lowered his blaster. The girl stumbled forward and fell into his arms. Her body was ice cold. Her wrists were bound with dull metal rings that had strange red lights. They looked like control tags. She clung to his jacket. "They sold me," she said. "For meat." Tom didn't move. He just held her for a moment. Then he picked her up in his arms, turned around, and walked back to the shed. He didn't ask questions. He wrapped her in an old thermal blanket and placed her on the only soft couch he had. He gave her water and placed a heater nearby. She flinched at the sound of the heater clicking on, but didn't let go of his hand. Tom stayed beside her as the sun dipped below the hills. Later, when she had enough strength to sit up, she looked around the room with wide, alert eyes. Everything was new to her. Every sound made her jump. Tom made soup using what he had. She didn't speak much, but she nodded when he placed the bowl in her hands. She sipped slowly, her eyes never leaving his face. "What's your name?" Tom asked quietly. She hesitated, then pointed to herself. "Ina." Tom nodded. "You're safe now." Ina's hands were still shaking. Her fingers touched the metal rings on her wrists. They blinked with a faint red light. Tom leaned closer and studied them. The lights were tied to some kind of biometric scanner. They weren't just cuffs. They were trackers. Tom stood up and went to his tools. He pulled out a small welding kit and a signal blocker. Carefully, without hurting her, he slipped a wire under each ring. Sparks jumped as he broke the circuit. The red lights flickered and died. Ina gasped. She looked at her wrists like they were finally her own. She touched his hand. "Thank you." Tom didn't smile. He just gave her a clean towel and helped her sit upright. Outside, the night was quiet, but Tom's mind wasn't. He had seen many strange things in his life. Old battles, lost colonies, illegal tech. But this was different. This girl wasn't. Cargo. She wasn't a prisoner of war. She had been packaged and sent away like a shipment of frozen food, sold for meat. That phrase echoed in his head. It made his hands tighten into fists. Tom went outside, scanned the crate again, and double-checked the area. No signal had been sent when he opened it. Good. But there might be someone looking for her. Whoever sold her might want their product. Back. He returned to the shed and locked the door. Ina was already asleep on the couch, curled under the blanket. Her breathing was soft and slow. One of her hands rested on the edge of the table, close to the cup he had given her. She looked, small, fragile, like a child who had run too far. Tom sat in the corner chair and watched over her. He didn't sleep. He knew what kind of world they lived in now. The galaxy had changed. Empires had fallen. Trade laws had become loose. If someone was rare enough, strange enough, someone else would pay anything to own them, even if it meant selling a living being like a piece of meat. But not here. Not in his yard. Tom didn't know where she came from or what she had been through, but one thing was clear. She was not going back. Not while he was still breathing. Morning came slowly to the scrapyard. The suns of Vesk rose behind the jagged hills, casting long shadows across the broken metal piles. Tom was already awake. He had not slept. He sat in his corner chair, watching the girl sleep on the couch. With quiet eyes and a tired heart, Ina was still, wrapped in the thermal blanket, her head resting against the armrest. Her breathing was soft. She looked peaceful now, but Tom could still see the fear hiding in her face. He stood and walked to the small kitchen space. As he poured warm water into a cup, Ina stirred. Her eyes opened quickly, her body tensing. She looked around the room until her eyes found Tom. Only then did her muscles relax. "You're safe," he said quietly, handing her the cup. She held it with both hands, as if afraid to drop it. Tom sat across from her. He studied her face. Her features were delicate. Her skin looked smoother now that the frost was gone. She blinked often, like she was still not used to the light. "You slept well," Tom said. Ina nodded. Her voice was low. "This place, it's quiet. That's the point," Tom replied. "Nobody comes here?" Ina looked at her wrists. The broken rings were still there, but they no longer blinked. She rubbed them, then looked up. "You stopped them?" "Yes." "Why?" Tom didn't answer right away. He looked outside the window, where two birds were fighting over a scrap of food. "Because they shouldn't have been there in the first place," he said. "And you shouldn't have been inside that crate." Ina lowered her eyes. Her fingers trembled slightly. "I was not the only one." Tom leaned forward. "There were others?" "Yes, many. They took us from our home, told us we were to be guests. But they lied." Her voice broke slightly, but she continued. "They gave us food. Took our names. Then they told us we would be sold." Some screamed, some begged. The ones who resisted were taken first. I don't know where they are now. Tom's jaw clenched. He had heard stories before, quiet rumors from the deep colonies, but hearing it from her made it real. "What do they call your people?" he asked. "We call ourselves Leary." Tom nodded. He hadn't heard the name before. That didn't surprise him. There were thousands of species, and many were ignored by the big trade networks. That made it easier for criminals to hide what they were doing. Ina looked at him carefully. "Are you a soldier?" "I was," Tom said. "Long time ago." "You do not act like a traitor." "I'm not." She hesitated, then asked, "Why are you here?" Tom looked at the rusted tools on the bench, at the piles of junk outside, and finally back to her. "Because I got tired of watching bad people win," he said. "And I didn't want to be one of them." Ina stared at him for a long moment. Then she looked down at her hands. "I will work," she said. "I can clean, fix small things. I will stay hidden. Just don't send me away." "You don't owe me anything," Tom said firmly. "This is not a prison. But I need to stay useful," she replied. "If not, they will come." Tom understood. Somewhere deep inside, this girl had been trained to survive by pleasing others. It made him feel something he hadn't felt in a long time: anger. He stood and walked to the console. He turned on the scanner and began searching for any signal that matched the crate. There was nothing, no beacon, no tracking code. Whoever sent her had kept it off-grid. He checked for local patrol reports. One ship had passed near Vesk 2 nights ago. No landing was reported. That was likely when the crate was dropped. Whoever did it wanted to get rid of her fast. Tom turned off the screen. He didn't like what he was thinking, but he needed answers. "Ina," he said, "the crate you came in, do you know where it was going?" She shook her head. "I woke up when it fell." Tom nodded. "It was meant to land here. Someone chose this place." Her eyes widened. "They know where I am?" "Maybe not yet, but they might come back to." "Check." Ina stood up quickly. "I will leave. I will run into the hills. You don't have to fight for me." Tom stepped forward and placed a hand on her shoulder. She froze. "You're not going anywhere alone," he said. "If they come, we'll deal with them." Ina looked like she wanted to argue, but then her body sagged and she nodded. "Thank you." Tom gave her a jacket to wear and some spare boots. They were too big, but they would keep her warm. He showed her how to use the signal jammer in case anything got through the scanners. She listened carefully, nodding as he explained. That night, after dinner, they sat outside near the fire pit. The stars above Vesk were bright. Tom sipped tea while Ina watched the sky. "Do humans have stories?" she asked. "Many. Will you tell me one?" Tom thought for a moment. Then he began to tell her an old tale from Earth. A story about a wolf that protected a lost child in the forest. Ina listened without blinking, her eyes wide with wonder. When he finished, she looked at the stars again. "On my world, we have stories too, but we were not strong like wolves." "You are still here," Tom said. "That means you were strong enough." Ina gave a small smile, the first he had seen on her face, and for a moment, the scrapyard didn't feel so empty anymore. Tom sat at his workbench in the back of the shed, wiping grease from his hands. The sun was still rising, and the wind outside carried fine dust through the air. The scrapyard was quiet except for the low hum of the signal jammer. Ina sat across. From him, her arms folded on the table, eyes focused on the metal rings still locked around her wrists. She turned them slowly, watching how the light touched the surface. They were dull gray, but the red sensors on their sides were now dark. Tom had broken the signal, but the rings themselves were still there. "Can they track me with these?" Ina asked. "Not anymore," Tom replied. "I cut the power, but I still want to know what they are." He picked up a scanner and held it over her wrist. The device buzzed and beeped. Lines of code scrolled across the screen. Tom narrowed his eyes. "These aren't just trackers," he said. "There's a whole data signature inside. They were made for something more." "What do you mean?" "They don't just send your location. They record your movement, body temperature, heartbeat, even stress levels. They were monitoring you every second." Ina lowered her eyes. She didn't seem surprised. "That's how they decide," she said. "Who is weak? Who is strong? They feed that data to the buyers." Tom set the scanner down. His chest felt heavy. He had seen many cruel devices in his time, but this was different. This was planned, cold, profitable. "Buyers," Tom repeated. "So it was a trade." Ina nodded. "A long one. Ships came to our world, not with weapons but with words. They smiled, promised help, trade, peace. They built camps for visitors. Then they started selecting us." Tom listened without interrupting. "They told my people we were being sent to other planets. Some believed it. Some did not. Those who asked too many questions disappeared. The rest just hoped it would be better somewhere else." Tom felt a chill run down his back. He had fought in border wars years ago, but this was something worse. This was done with permission, with systems, with laws written to protect the criminals. "I should have died," Ina said, almost to herself. "The crate was for waste units. I think someone made a mistake." Tom leaned forward. Or someone helped you escape. She looked up at him. Think about it, Tom said. That crate had no signal, no ID. It didn't even lock properly. Maybe someone wanted you to survive. Ina looked down at the rings. Again. Her hands tightened. If someone helped me, they're probably dead now. Tom didn't argue. He stood up and walked to the far corner of the shed. He unlocked a metal chest and pulled out a small device. It looked like a disc with wires on one side. What's that? Ina asked. A slicer, Tom said. Old tech. It can break high-grade cuffs, but it burns the lock open. It's going to sting. Ina nodded without hesitation and held out her arms. Tom connected the device to the first ring. It whirred for a few seconds, then sparked. A small jolt ran through Ina's arm. She winced but said nothing. The ring popped open and dropped to the floor. The second ring came off the same way. She rubbed her wrists and took a deep breath. For the first time, there was no weight on her skin. Thank you, she whispered. Tom picked up the rings with a cloth and placed them in a lead-lined box. I'm going to find out who made these, he said. Who used them, and where they sent the others. Ina looked at him. Why do you care? Tom didn't answer right away. He looked out the window. The scrapyard stretched far in every direction. Broken machines, forgotten metal, rusted dreams. He had lived among them for years, fixing what no one else cared to fix, because no one else will, he said. They spent the rest of the morning working in silence. Tom opened an old comms unit and started searching through the underground, networks he used long ago. He sent a signal to an old contact on the outer systems, a woman named Mira who once worked for the Free Tech League. If anyone could track the origin of the rings, it would be her. Ina helped clean tools and organize the bench. She didn't speak much, but her hands moved with care. She was quiet, but not afraid anymore. Something in her posture had changed. That night, a message came through. Mira's voice crackled through the speaker. Tom, are you still breathing out there? She asked. Just barely, he replied. I sent you a data scan. I saw, and I've seen those tags before, but you're not going to like where they came from. Try me. They're from a private market. Deep black. Mobile platform. It moves between lawless zones. No name, just a code. Red Harbor. Who runs it? No one knows. But the buyers are rich, and the products are rare. Sentient only. The kind you can't find in catalogs. Tom's eyes narrowed. Where? Is it now? Somewhere near the Ventari cluster. But it never stays in one place for long. And Tom, if you're thinking of going after them, don't. They're protected. You go near them, you disappear. Thanks for the warning. The message ended. Tom turned to Ina, who had been listening. So now we know, he said. Ina's face was pale, but calm. Red Harbor. That's where they took the others. Tom nodded. I want to find them, Ina said. We will, Tom replied. But we'll do it smart. First, we make sure they don't find us. Ina looked at him with a quiet strength in her eyes. I'm not afraid anymore. Tom gave her a rare smile. You shouldn't be. Tom stood on the upper platform of the scrapyard, looking out across the land. The sun was setting behind the distant hills, painting the sky orange and red. Wind pushed dust across the yard, hiding the edges of broken ships and old towers of metal. But Tom wasn't looking at the junk. He was watching the sky. The signal scanner beside him gave a short beep. Something was entering Vesk's upper atmosphere. He pressed a few buttons and narrowed the scan. A ship was coming. Small, fast, and carrying no cargo. Not registered with local patrols, no trade number. Its direction was clear. It was heading straight for his yard. Tom turned off the scanner and climbed down the ladder. Inside the shed, Ina was folding clean cloth. She looked up as he walked in. Her face showed calm, but her eyes searched his. Someone's coming, he said. She stood without asking more. They moved fast. Ina went to the lower room, where the hidden space was already prepared. A trap door, beneath the old power core, opened into a small bunker Tom had dug years ago. She climbed down, and he closed the hatch behind her. Outside, the wind began to howl. Minutes later, a ship landed at the edge of the yard. It was dark gray with sharp angles, the kind of ship made for speed, not comfort. It made no sound except for the quiet hum of its core engine cooling down. The door opened. A man stepped out. He was tall, wearing a long coat with armor underneath. His boots were clean. His face was cold and smooth, without emotion. A scar ran across his cheek, and one of his eyes was covered with a glass lens that glowed faintly red. Tom walked out to meet him. The man gave a small nod. "Name's Varn. I'm looking for something." "You're on private land," Tom replied. "What do you want?" Varn pulled a small device from his coat and activated a screen. A picture appeared. Ina's face. Her eyes were wide in the image, her head tilted. Slightly. She looked younger, weaker. "This girl," Varn said. "She was lost in a crate drop. Came from a contract transport that passed over this area 4 days ago. High-value target. The buyer is offering 10,000 credits for return." Tom looked at the image, then back at Varn. "Never seen her," he said. Varn studied Tom for a moment. "You're not on any regular trade list. This yard isn't registered with the guild anymore. That means you don't get visits, no patrols, no witnesses." Tom's voice remained steady. "I like it that way." Varn took a slow step forward. "You sure she didn't pass through here? Might have hidden herself in one of your scrap piles. Wouldn't be the first time some cargo tried to vanish." Tom didn't move. "I already told you." Varn smiled slightly, but there was no humor in it. He looked around the yard. "You used to be military," he said. "I know your face. Tom Ryle. You fought at Vera's wall, walked away when your unit broke, disappeared after the surrender." Tom's jaw tightened. Varn continued. "Some people said you ran. Others said you buried your command and quit the war. Doesn't matter to me. I'm only here for one thing." "You're not getting her," Tom said. The air went still. Even the wind seemed to pause. Varn raised an eyebrow. "So she is here." Tom didn't answer. His hand moved to the side, resting on the tool belt at his hip. Varn didn't flinch. He slowly took off his glove and tapped a button on the side of his coat. A soft pulse spread across the yard. Tom felt it in his teeth. "Pulse scan," Varn said. "If she's anywhere above ground, I'll find her." "She's not," Tom replied. Varn looked at him for a long time. Then his hand dropped to his weapon. In that moment, Tom moved. He didn't reach for the blaster on his belt. Instead, he stepped into Varn's arm, knocked the weapon aside, and grabbed the coat's power switch. The armor shut down for 1 second. It was enough. Tom slammed the edge of a wrench into Varn's knee. The man dropped fast, but he didn't cry out. He rolled backward, pulled out a shock rod, and lunged. Tom blocked the first swing, dodged the second, then drove his shoulder into Varn's chest and knocked him into a pile of scrap. Varn hit the ground hard. Tom stepped over him and raised the wrench again. "Wait," Varn said. "You don't understand. That girl is worth more than credits. She's a key." Tom stopped. "A key to what?" Varn wiped blood from his mouth. "Her species isn't just rare, it's dangerous. Their voice can influence machines, make tech, act strange. That's why she was marked for special contract. Red Harbor wants her, and they don't forget." Tom leaned closer. "Then you can tell Red Harbor something from me." "What?" "She's not going back." He pressed a button on the device he had hidden in his coat. A shock pulse hit Varn's armor and knocked him out cold. 10 minutes later, the ship was empty. Varn was locked in his own storage bay, unconscious. Tom rewired the navigation system and sent the ship to autopilot. It would fly to the desert and shut down in a canyon. Someone might find him in a week. Tom returned to the shed and opened the hatch. Ina climbed up slowly. Is he gone? She asked. Yes, for now. He will return? No, Tom said, but someone else will, and next time they'll come with more than words. Ina sat down. Her hands were steady. Then we fight. Tom nodded. Next time, he said, we make sure they don't get close. And outside, the wind began to howl again. The days passed quietly, but Tom knew the silence would not last. Varn's ship had never sent a distress call. Tom made sure of that. It now sat deep in the Red Rock canyons, its engines fried, its pilot still unconscious when the final override locked it down. But Tom understood how bounty networks worked. If one hunter failed, others would come. They would be smarter, faster, and more prepared. Inside the scrapyard, Tom and Ina prepared. The bunker was reinforced with old ship armor. Tom installed blast shields around the main shed. He activated hidden defense turrets he had buried years, and reconnected the motion grid around the outer edge. He even rigged the junk piles with traps, tripwires, shock fields, noise bombs. Ina worked beside him every day. She learned quickly. Her hands were small but steady. She helped build a false wall behind the tool racks. She repaired the power lines feeding the signal jammer. She asked questions, and Tom answered them. At night, they talked. One evening, after the last system check, they sat near the fire pit. The stars above were cold and bright. Have you ever lost anyone? Ina asked. Tom poked the fire with a metal rod. Yes. She waited. He didn't say more. You don't speak of them. There's no need. They're gone. But I carry them with me. Ina looked at her hands. My family is gone too. I saw them last during the sorting. Tom looked at her. My mother was quiet, Ina continued. She smiled even when she was afraid. She held my hand and told me to look brave, so they would not take me first. My brother tried to fight. They dragged him out of the line. I never saw him again. She paused. I was put in the crate next. Tom listened in silence. I hate being weak, she said. I hate feeling like I am still in that crate. You're not weak, Tom replied. You survived something most people never could. She turned toward him. But I'm afraid. What if they come and take me again? Tom looked at the fire. They will come, but they won't take you. Ina stared into the flames. Why do you protect me? Tom took a breath. Because no one protected the people I lost. If I had done more back then, maybe they'd still be alive. Ina didn't speak for a while. Then she said, You're not alone now. The fire crackled between them. The next day, a message came through. It wasn't from Mira this time. It was a wideband signal broadcast across hidden networks. A warning. A bounty had been placed on Tom's yard. Not just for Ina, but for Tom himself. Red Harbor had labeled him a thief and a traitor. They offered a fortune to anyone who could capture him alive. The message was clear. They knew she was with him. Tom shut down the console and leaned back in his chair. Ina stood in the doorway, her hands clenched. They know. Yes. What now? We finish what we started, Tom said. They worked harder after that. Ina practiced with the shock tools and learned how to control small drones. Tom taught her how to fire a basic blaster. She struggled at first, but soon found her rhythm. Her calm focus impressed him. One night, she said, we should send a message, too. To who? Tom asked. To the people who don't know. The, ones still being hunted. The ones who are afraid. Tom thought for a moment. Then he nodded. They set up a simple broadcast channel. Ina recorded a short message. She stood before the camera and spoke in a quiet but strong voice. My name is Ina of the Leary. I was taken from my home and sold. I escaped. I am alive. And I am not hiding anymore. Tom added a warning to bounty hunters. He showed images of the traps, the turrets, the outer grid. He made it clear. This yard was not open for business. Anyone who came would be met with force. The message was sent across old pirate channels, secret tech forums, and resistance networks. By morning, the response had begun. Some messages offered help. Some were from people who had seen others like Ina. Some were from survivors. Others offered credits or shelter. One even said, "You're not alone. We will rise." Tom saw something changing, not just in the stars, but in Ina too. She no longer moved like a scared child. She stood straighter, spoke louder, looked people in the eye, but danger still approached. Late one evening, the early warning. System pinged. Tom and Ina rushed to the scanner. 3 ships, no IDs, no signal, flying in formation. "They're coming," Tom said. Ina didn't tremble. They armed the defenses. Every turret was online. The jammer was set to full range. The traps were charged. Tom gave Ina a headset. "If something happens to me, get to the lower exit and run west. Mira has a contact 3 clicks out." "I won't leave you," Ina said. "You might have to." She shook her head. "I won't." Tom didn't argue. He loaded a plasma charge into the gate defense cannon and stood beside her. Together, they waited. The sky above turned dark, and far out across the plain, the shadows of the enemy ships touched the land. The sky darkened quickly as the 3 ships cut through the clouds. Their engines hummed low, but the wind carried a heavy silence. Tom stood by the gate cannon, his fingers tight around the plasma charge. Ina was close beside him, headset on, eyes sharp. The enemy ships circled low, scanning the scrapyard. Small drones launched from their hulls, buzzing toward the metal piles like angry insects. The turrets swiveled and locked on, waiting. "Stay calm," Tom said. "Wait for my signal." Ina nodded. Her hands were steady, but inside she felt a storm. This was what she feared, but also what she had learned to face. The first drone crossed into the defense zone. A turret fired a burst of electric bolts. The drone exploded in a flash of sparks. More drones followed. The air filled with the sound of weapons and alarms. Tom activated the signal jammer at full power. The enemy ship's sensors flickered, but they adjusted. One pilot was good, flying close to the ground, trying to avoid detection. A ship landed behind a rock formation near the yard's perimeter. Tom's motion sensors alerted him. He grabbed a shock rifle and moved toward the fence. Ina watched the main gate. Her heart pounded. She had never fought like this before, but now she understood why Tom had chosen to help her. Suddenly, figures appeared over the fence. They were fast, wearing dark armor and helmets with red visors. The harvesters had come for her. Tom fired the shock rifle. A soldier fell, twitching on the ground. The others spread out, moving in carefully, using the junk piles as cover. Ina grabbed a small drone from her belt and threw it. The device beeped, then exploded in a burst of sound and light. The attackers were blinded for a moment. Tom shouted, "Fall back to the shed! Keep moving!" They ran through the maze of metal, firing back at the attackers. Sparks flew as laser bolts hit scrap metal. The ground shook underfoot. Ina was breathless, but she kept going. She saw Tom fall behind a pile, struggling with 2 soldiers. Without thinking, she charged forward. Her voice rose, a strange sound unlike anything Tom had heard. It was sharp, almost musical, but full of power. The attackers paused, confused. Machines near them flickered and failed. Lights went out. One soldier's weapon jammed. Tom looked up, surprised. "What did you do?" he asked. Ina's eyes shone, bright. "My voice affects machines. It can break them." Tom smiled through the chaos. "That's a gift." Ina repeated the sound, stronger this time. The enemy's weapons sputtered and died. The attackers cursed and retreated. Tom helped Ina back to the shed. "We have to finish this," he said. Inside the shed, Tom activated the defense systems. The walls hummed with energy as automated turrets turned on. The attackers tried to break the doors. but the shields held. The battle raged for hours. Outside, the sky brightened with the coming dawn. The enemy finally withdrew, leaving the scrapyard battered but still standing. Tom and Ina were exhausted. The yard was quiet again. Ina looked at Tom. "They will come again?" Tom nodded. "Yes, but next time, we will be ready." They had fought, together and survived, and something had changed. Ina was no longer just a frightened girl in a crate. She was a fighter, and Tom was no longer alone. The morning sun rose slowly over Vesk, casting soft light on the battered scrapyard. The air was still, but the tension lingered like a shadow. Tom and Ina stood side by side near the gate, looking at the empty horizon. For days, they had waited, prepared and fought. The enemy had come, but they had not taken Ina. Not this time. Ina touched her wrists, now free of the metal rings. Her voice was quiet but strong. "They tried to make me a prisoner, a product, meat for their markets." Tom nodded. "But you're not." Ina looked at him. "No one is." A small crackle came from the comm unit inside the shed. Tom picked it up and listened. A voice, unfamiliar and urgent, spoke. It was Mira. "Tom, Ina, listen carefully. The story you started is spreading. People across the systems are hearing. They see your stand." Tom smiled. "That's good." "It's more than good. Red Harbor is under pressure. The markets where they sell living beings are being closed down. Investigations are starting. Other survivors are stepping forward." Ina's eyes shone with hope. "They are not alone." "No one is alone anymore," Tom said. They decided to send a message back to the galaxy. Ina spoke first. "My name is Ina of the Leary. I was taken, sold for meat, but I am free. I stand with those who fight. We will not be silent." Tom added, "This scrapyard is a symbol, a place where no one will be hunted or sold again." The message went out through secure channels, reaching hundreds of systems. Weeks passed. The galaxy changed slowly, but it did change. The bounty hunters stopped. Coming! Patrols increased around known trade routes. Laws were rewritten. Red Harbor's power weakened. One day, a small ship landed near the yard. It carried a group of people, survivors from other planets, humans and aliens alike. They came with supplies, hope, and thanks. Ina welcomed them with open arms. She smiled, the warmth of a new family in her eyes. Tom watched them, feeling something new inside. "Peace. You saved me," Ina said one evening as they watched the twin suns set. "No," Tom replied. "You saved yourself. I only helped." Ina reached for his hand. Together. And together they faced a future where no one would ever be sold for meat again.